All right. All right. How's everyone doing today? I'm going to focus a little bit more on some of the agentic flow related work that I've been doing. I've been building a lot of components and websites and agents with it. It's kind of my personal stack at this point. Things that I'm building to learn and well, mostly for my clients that are hiring me to build stuff. Actually, let me approve this. All right. Jed, how's it going? I can see you're up and running here.
Place, more recently leaning very hard into skills, triggering other models in different servers to generate code artifacts that go up into GitHub.
Okay.
It's
That's
my
so you're
very hacky way to get around the disk IO problem. And
so
rather
you're using skills like Claude Code skills?
cloud code skills that tie to CLIs, which launch pods in a Kubernetes environment on completely different nodes. And the problem it's solving is because of tmux, I have, and all the hooks and all the MCPs, my disk IO is the current limitation I have. So I can only really run 7 or so instances before I crash this particular server. So this is now allowing me a very hacky form of distributed agentic engineering.
Is there anything other than a hacky form of agentic engineering?
A mature form.
Like,
I don't know what that looks like yet, but we'll get there soon.
all right. So I also see Rob. You're on the line. How's it going, Rob? You hope you're feeling better.
Great. Yes, on the mend. We are on the mend. Thank you, Roof. All settled in. I've got to get my Starlink. I may be choppy. My frame rate may be off, but it's
Oh
on
yeah.
route.
Yeah, you're a little blurry. I've got a new computer, so I gotta probably adjust my camera a little bit. Well, whatever. Um, anyway, I for some reason I'll have to move back. But you're looking good. I'm glad you're feeling better, and
Thank you.
you're moved into the new place, I guess, right?
Yeah, we're all settled in. Still off camera are piles of boxes left, right, and center. But
Uh,
yes, moved in and lots of Buckleys. 2 empty bottles of Buckleys so far. So
this is bad timing to get sick. Just as a quick note, I'm going to quickly mute all, but you can unmute yourselves. That just means anyone that's joining will automatically be muted, and I forgot to do that. But I'm not muting on purpose. I'm just making it so it auto mutes. Um, all right. So next week, for those that are in Toronto, we are doing a Toronto meetup on the November 11th at 6:30 at 35 John Street. For those who are around, feel free to come by for some pizza. Rob, hopefully you can make it, and Nick and the rest of the crew. Now, for those who didn't follow baseball, it was a little disappointing last week. The guys lost. Our Blue Jays lost. Nick, what are your thoughts there? What happened? We didn't do so great.
At the end of the day, it's a game, and when there's one game left, like anything can happen. And we played well enough to win, but at the end of the day, there was one guy, Yamamoto, that he was the difference. He was the difference in the series. It was very close. But yeah, it was a tough one to swallow. Like 5,000 games later, you finally get a chance for them to win. But it was a lot of fun. Win or lose, we're all pretty proud of the way they played.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
that's next year, I guess, or in 30, one of the two.
Maybe
And
next year's
I
the year for the Leafs, right?
No, yeah, you're right. Good luck with that. And I don't follow a lot of hockey, but I know that this is like I know they're terrible. That's all I need to know. All right. Well, I'm what I lack in sports knowledge, I make up for in AI. So if you're looking for AI stuff, I'm the guy you want to talk to. If you're looking for sports, you can talk to Nick. I'm not that guy. I know enough.
Neural trader doing some predictions. So you still make your contributions, Roof.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we've been working through lots of things. I've keep cranking out new projects and new applications. And I appreciate the different projects that I get to work on sort of independently of the stuff that I've been sharing with what's fractional? You guys are asking is what shirt am I wearing? I've got more t-shirts from various companies I've started over the years than I do than I do like actual like success from those companies. But if you're curious, so about 8, 9 years ago, I think it was 2016, I decided to create a company called Fractional, which used this emerging concept called a smart contract, circa 2016, and that would allow me to fractionalize assets of various types. So my thinking was I could use smart contracts to tokenize different assets. And then what I ended up doing was creating something called an initial coin offering. I'm not going to get into that right now because it was a total shit show, and basically everyone on the planet basically said that I was the worst thing to ever happen, including all the regulators. But anyway, I got a nice T-shirt out of it and a lot of heartache. So if you're wondering why I have a strong disdain for blockchain technologies, it's probably this T-shirt. But onward and upward, not everything works out. But if you do, I was pretty good at building Solidity-based smart contracts for a while. And I think I'm better suited for AI, let's just say. We don't talk about that. All right. Hey, before I jump into the sort of vibe coding session here, anything anyone wants to present, show, tell, rant? I see that we've got John on here. Good to see you, John. And we got a number of the AI, the Agentics tribe crew here as well. Thanks again for joining. All right. And again, what I'm going to show you this week is some of the agentic flow related stuff. And like always, if you've got questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to try to keep the chat open here as well. And I'm just going to get right into it. And we're gonna start vibing a little bit. All right. So let's see what I can show. 1 second. I'm going to get my window open. I get too many screens here. All right, this is a new laptop, so hopefully it works correctly. It's a different resolution too. So anyway, if it looks bad, you just let me know. Okay, so oh, I gotta move this screen sharing thing somewhere else. All right, so one of the things that a lot of folks have been complaining about, and let me get the chat going here as well. And I'll get participants. All right, I think I got everything going. All right, is my lack of visual sort of UIs. So I'm gonna try to publish some of this stuff, but in the projects page you see here, I've been really working on my stack. Well, that's new error I've never seen before. The rate limited by upstream service. I guess I'm getting too much traffic for my badges to work. That's a new problem. Thanks for everyone for visiting my website, I guess. Anyway, so I've been building a lot of things around the agentic flow system. So if you look at like the research tool that I built and some of the other things that I built this week, they're basically just using the baseline of agentic flow to sort of show what's possible. So when you go into the research swarm, this is essentially agentic flow. It's me doing an application of agentic flow. And so when you go in here and try a live demo, you can see all the different options available. Now, for those that I know they're going to ask, like, how can I get access to this UI? Well, I built it by pointing basically at agentic flow to build the thing for it, but I will try to package it up at some point and make it available for you guys. But you can see here that I've got things like market analysis. So depending on the section, these are essentially different agents. So in the agentic flow, you can create agents. These are essentially them, right? So and then you have sub agents, related. Then you have different options for the research, report, long, short, narrative formats, all that kind of stuff. Citation style. Who knew Chicago style was even a thing? But I guess it is, so I'll choose that. In different options, and then you can auto generate, and I'll say, a agentic and engineering. All right, I'm going to execute that. You can see sort of the composition of how it sort of breaks it down. anyone that's ever played with Claude Code recognizes this. So while this is, I'm going to go Betty Crocker. I'm going to create another one as well. And I'm going to go, and then I'll show you a little bit of how I'm actually doing this stuff. But I'll go here to the Agentic Flow. And I did a similar one this morning for Agentic Flow. This is more focused on using essentially the agent capabilities. So you can go in this scenario, you can see, again, these are the sort of agents, broken down by the .claude/agents folder, swarm coordination, GitHub, whatever, neural, goal-oriented planning, goal planning, sublinear planners. So these are just basically parsing the agents that I have in there. Now I've got the AI generator. So based on the selections you make here and below, I can generate a prompt because who knows what the heck to prompt it. So, and I'm just using Gemini for this because it's nice and fast, but you hypothetically you could use anything for it. So you can see here I generated a prompt based on goal-oriented planning and goal planner, implement a secure performance scalable real-time cryptocurrency. No, I'm not going to do cryptocurrency. For all the reasons I just mentioned, I'm not doing cryptocurrency. All right, let's try another one. Analyze the 7-day server performance logs for see performance and optimization, performance analyzer. All right, then we can go here, look at different models, and all these models, you can use as many as you want. I just did a few examples using Gemini because that's what I'm using here. And if you hold your mouse over a little help, it tells you all the features. Really, what I'm doing here is trying to show you all the features of the system in something that shows you how it works, right? So you got mess, these different types of swarm configurations. To be honest, the best swarm configuration you're going to want to use from almost just about anything is going to be hierarchical. And for most of the things I do, it's hierarchical. I should probably make that default, to be honest. Go here, max concurrent, topology. So you can hold your mouse over, it'll tell you what that is. It automatically selects the best topology based on task characteristics, cross memory, core features, reasoning components. Also for learning, so a lot of people are asking me like, what kind of learning should I do? The best learning system that I pretty much always use is either Decision Transformer or the Q-learning. And some people complain that Q-learning is old, like 4 or 5 years old. But to be honest, just because it's new doesn't necessarily make it better. So I like the decision option there. All right, you can see lots of options, verbosity, stuff like that. All right, and so now I select this. I go to execution. I'm going to run it. I'm going to let that do its thing as well. I'm going to jump back. You can see here that it's injecting it. I'm going to go back here. All right, this is done. We're going to go to agent flow. This is cool because I'm going to do a little bit better job, but I'm using the React Flow library here, which is a nice way to visualize the things you're doing. And so if you're looking at creating kind of drag and drop interfaces, check out React Flow. That's literally how I'm doing this sort of visualization. Looks like I need to do looks like I need to fix it a little bit, but whatever. Then the findings. So, oh, it looks like I chose custom length, which made it break. All right, let's go back and choose. So what happened with this one is the custom length. I didn't actually define the custom length, so it stopped in the middle of the output, which is probably means when I probably need to define the custom length rather than just say be custom and hard code it, but whatever. And then we can see the raw findings. So these are citations. These citations in this particular, I'm using the ED 2551 sort of I don't know, the crypto verification of it. So each of the findings can be sort of verified. Someone was commenting on a post yesterday, basically that how you ground it, how do you know it's true, and how do you prove where it's coming from. So each of the findings that are coming into the system are basically have a kind of cryptographic stamp of approval, if you will, on these. So you can see some of the details here, and I've limited because I didn't want to spend too much money. So this could obviously run for a really long time, but oh, that was weird. When I spin this around. Can you guys see that? New computer, I guess. Yeah, or new to Zoom. I don't know what that is. Okay. Anyway, you can see some more details here. Citations. Again, these are the research citations and confidence. It's also learning, right? So as it researches, it's feeding the memory bank and the research and the reasoning bank and the other components and getting more confident in the information that it's getting and whether it's true or not. So you can see that I'm using that kind of structure to do all these things. And then finally, there's a verification. You know that I've been a little bit obsessed with this ED255 sort of verification. So again, that's a kind of cryptographic verification of the system itself. Some more details on that. And let's jump to this other one. So this is agentic flow, but for like long running research processes. Even though this was only running for like a minute, hypothetically it could run forever. I just not doing that because it costs me a lot of money, and as you can tell, I get some decent traffic. So I don't want to spend the money on that. All right, in this case, this one is doing. Yeah, so was there a question?
May I ask you? There's also a question in the chat about that. How do these align with if you're running from the CLI, the same thing?
So yeah, so
user interface is super cool, but we don't have that one. If I want to run it on my own computer, and usually the research results, they are in a database, and you have to dig it from there. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what you're saying. So there's an output, and you see the results here, right? So we did this performance analyzers, and this would be sort of the raw text output. So there's two outputs to the system. There's kind of this raw. You can get it to output. It's an agent. So you can get the agent to do whatever it is you want it to do, right? You could tell the agent to go, post it to Supabase, or you could get the agent to save it as a database DB file or whatever you want it to be saved as, and then the agent will go figure it out without you really telling it exactly how to get to the point of saving it, which is good but not always practical, because the problem with that is it's declarative again. It doesn't always do it the same way. So you could ask the same question, but it'll get to the answer different ways every time. The problem with that, especially if you're creating an application like what you're looking at right here, this is an MD file, a kind of raw output. I didn't even bother rendering it here. Over here, I actually rendered it. So this is actually, even though I didn't fully output it, but you can see the headline's big and it doesn't have all this sort of markdown. The way that I'm doing that is I'm actually saving the output as a JSON file that I can then essentially parse and use in a more normalized way. So sort of the idea of a structured output. So the structured output of the system allows me to kind of productize it and use it within applications. So if I always need to get the information and then execute it against, I don't know, a trading bot or something, then I'm going to need to have a sort of normalization and a kind of consistent structure to that output. That's JSON, right? And so the JSON structure, and I think I might show it in this other one. Let me see if I can see that. No, I don't know if I actually did that. I used to have it. I think I might remove that. But anyway, you've seen JSON. It's a bunch of markup code. In this case, you're just looking at the raw output here. But I think the short answer to what you're asking is yes, you're using the MPX essentially to do it, and then you're using the structured output from that to be able to parse it using a database or whatever application you're doing. Are using vector search to read the JSON.
But isn't it so also the NPX has the things that they learn? It is in the same directory that where you initiate that. So basically, unless you are not using Supabase, is that correct?
Yeah, so I've also got Supabase too. So for the production ready systems I'm doing, so when I'm building like an application that needs to run in forever or be, something you charge for, then SQLite on a local environment isn't particularly well suited for that.
Yeah.
So what in that scenario, I can use pretty much any database, but I like the PG vector and the sort of a traditional Postgres style database and that you get from Supabase. But again, you can use anything if you want. That's the benefit to the SQLite is it kind of acts as a kind of optimal ACID style database that can be plugged into other things quite easily. So let's jump into the next part. So I'm building all these crazy things, and how am I doing that? All right. So first of all, I'm using today I'm going to show you guys, and this is something Jed's a big fan of, so I figured I'd show DevPod. So in this case, I'm running my DevPod. Now, to get DevPod working requires a couple things. You need to install the Windows Linux subsystem, WLS, I think is what it's called, and then that allows you to run these containers. The next thing you need to do is you need to install Docker Desktop. So you can see here I've got two different Docker desktop containers running. I've got the one that I'm showing you here in a minute, and as well as another one I was fooling around with earlier as well. So essentially, what the DevPod system does is really just allows you to do this. It allows you to build the container easily and then open it either in VS Code or whatever your preferred sort of environment is easily. Now you could do the same thing with VS Code by connecting to the WSL directly or the SSH, but this just basically makes it easier. So you can download the DevPod tool, and then you're going to go to providers, and you're going to add the Docker environment. You can see I get two workspaces going. I don't have any fancy sort of configurations, but you can use dev containers and things like that. I'm not running any of them. It's just generic. And let's see what other settings I've got here. Nothing too fancy here. All right, once you've got that, then you can go and you can then start up the environment. All right, so now this environment, hopefully I'm not sharing any EMVs. So we'll just do ls, and we'll see. Yeah, see, it's just your standard sort of Ubuntu image. Now I just pushed an update to my Claude Flow to try to fix a cache related issue. So that's the first thing I'm going to look at. I'm just going to make sure that I didn't break it badly, and if I did, we'll have to spend a few minutes fixing whatever I broke. But so now I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to do version. And this is running in a container. And so it's version 2.8, right? So now we're going to let that do its thing for a minute. It looks like it worked. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the force init on it. Now, the good news is, the good news for anyone that's been having issues with the Claude Flow caching issue, if I was having the caching issue, I would have saw a different error here, and I didn't see it, which is good news. Now I can't promise that it's totally fixed yet because it's one of those things that's like works for me. Like literally, you're seeing it work for me. So someone else somewhere else needs to go and try this that version command and tell me if they're seeing a cache issue, and if you do, pop it into the actual chat area, and I'll fix that for you. It's one of those bugs that just keeps coming back, and it has to do with the locking mechanism, I think, within my Agentic DB system. And someone, I think it was Tommy, was saying that it really started happening in version 23. That's because in version 23, specifically, I moved away from the traditional memory system to the Agentic DB memory system. And it works way better when it works, but then it creates a lock within the MPX structure. And then you see these cache issues all the time, which basically you'll see like the hooks basically stop working. And then everyone complains to me about it. I get some really nasty messages from people too. Hey, I'm not charging for this, by the way.
Who has a error message in the comments. It's basically coming from the Zenova transformer version 3.2.0, but the latest version from npm.js is 2.17.12. So I don't know how that hallucination happened.
Yeah, it's happening with me on Mac, so I just pasted in the chat about. Did you get the same error message?
I second the message. That's the one I.
Okay, the Mac. Okay, so if you do run into this error, and this is how you fix it. You're gonna do. I'm using my DSP, but Claude dangerously skip permissions, and you're gonna. I know this is gonna sound pretty obvious. You're gonna paste it in like that. That's it, and that fixes the error. Claude will fix the error. Now, no matching version to transformers. Okay, so this I think is AgentDB.
I don't know where in the repo this particular section is, otherwise I would have pushed a pull request.
Yeah, this is coming from this is coming from AgentDB's use of the Onyx local environment. I should make that optional. All right, so let me, I'm jumping around here a little bit. So it might not be fixed. So, oh, okay, I think, all right, it's actually not Claude, it's not Claude Code issue, as I suspected, it's an AgentDB issue. So I'm going to go to, you're going to watch me fix it, or at least attempt to fix it. All right, so
that works with if you go with the npx, but when you try to install it with npm, then it's giving this error message.
yeah, well, npm's going to have a different caching structure in MP. So npx is kind of transient, more ephemeral in nature, where npm is a global install. Did you try the -g as well? But so now I'm in Claude Code. So now I'm jumping around a little bit, which is my thing. All right, so we're gonna go back here for a moment, and in this case, I'm going to say getting reports of the following error in agent. I'm pretty sure it's AgentDB. Review and create a detailed issue and outline how we can, I don't know, fix this. Possibly making the Onyx libraries optional and until actually, I don't know, actually used. And we're going to paste that in there. Don't fix it yet. This is something that I don't want to fix it. I want to understand the problem first.
Okay.
All right, so
because I put my Claude to work on that, and it downgraded my Claude Flow to 2.01 version, which is Alpha 91, which is not.
Oh no, that's from like it's from like July. That's not a fix. All it really needed to do. Oh, your issue might be different than my issue, actually. Your issue is a Mac specific issue, not a cache related issue. What that probably means is this particular library isn't supported in your Mac environment. It's not a cache issue so much as a dependency issue. Different problem. Now that you mention it.
Check the chat, Ruth. I just sent the link to the Zenova Transformers library. It's referencing a version that doesn't appear to exist.
Yeah.
Okay, library. Okay.
I think it should already say that.
Look, exactly the same. We just found the same problem. Might be because the Zenova.
Hey, Jordy, you have something to share?
Yeah, I spent some tokens investigating what happened because I also suffer this issue, and it's in the issues 852. I put the link there. Let me paste it again.
Yeah. Okay. So different problem than what I thought, but we're gonna if it's just a dependency related issue, then that might be easier to fix. All right. So while that happens, so in the Agentic flow environment, you're going to see that I've got a whole bunch of different, and a lot of the stuff I'm building are in these environments. So in where did I put it? In packages, possibly packages, AgentDB. I get so much stuff. A lot of what I'm building has been part of Agentic Flow. So AgentDB is essentially the memory system that I built in there. You can see it in the packages folder. So AgentDB package and packages correctly uses two no files and codebase reference to likely transform a dependency. One of the packages depends on this. So now I got to figure out where exactly that's coming from. It might be let's create detailed fix strategy. This might be coming from well, we could jump back into Claude Code. Let's see if get reports of this error. Let's start here. Let's go here, and in this case, I'm going to, this is my Claude Flow environment, getting reports of the following might be an issue with with Agentic Flow MPX npm. Review and create a new GitHub issue using the CLI. So I'm gonna look at it from multiple vantage points. We'll see if we can we'll get to the heart of that for a moment. All right, so now I'm back in my Agentic Flow library. Let's see what I've created a detailed issue. The problem, a transitive dependency, not our code, is requesting this. Latest, best make Onyx optional, convert to optional dependencies. Well, that's not necessarily gonna, if we need to figure out where exactly that's being requested. So that's not a fix. Which library
In
is
the Agentic Flow.
causing this? Could be Agentic Flow or Claude Flow. All right, we'll do multiple environments. So while that's happening, and I might just need to have a more graceful error, possibly. If something doesn't exist, it shouldn't stop the thing from working. It should basically just it just should not use the thing, right? So I'll get to that here in a moment. But while that happens, I'm now back in my my DevPod environment. Just for those who are following along, hopefully I'm not jumping around too much. DevPod created a new environment using the Windows, in this case, the Windows WSL. This actually is easier on Mac, by the way. If you're running in a Mac, use DevPod. It's just easier. It separates it. There's no, like, those dependency issues become less problematic for you. There's just some quirks in the Mac OS, specifically around the hooks and the bash use. Remember that I'm using bash, and there's a tendency for Mac to use ZSH. So that solves that problem as well. So yeah, use DevPod and install your Docker desktop or whatever. And I think this actually prompts you for some of that as well. All right, so we're gonna go back. All right, so the next question that we had earlier was relating to Agentic DB. So let's take a little dive into that. I'm in the vibe coding, November 6th, so we're good. Now I'm going to just run this quickly just to make sure this works. This looks good. So you'll see here the failed commands. Those aren't actually failed commands. It just means that I've actually already installed the library. I've gotten rid of the Agentic payments library for now because it was causing problems for people and it was filling up people's context window, which has become the kiss of death recently. Nobody wants their context filled up. So what I'm going to be doing, hopefully in the next couple days, and I know I've been talking about it for a while, is I'm going to rework the claude.mdb file to be much smaller, and I'm going to make my MCPs components optional. So rather than giving you 100 and something MCP tools, I'm going to give you the ones that matter. And then if you want to use the other ones, you have to like invoke those to secondary sort of inits, make it to initialize, and that'll reduce the overall amount of information that I'm putting into your your MCP sort of context window.
Have you
Hopefully
seen
Take
recently?
in Claude Code.
Sorry,
I was gonna say
Yes.
there's a recent bunch of papers on tool calling MCPs essentially, and tool calling agents and changes to the way that's working, so that you can have those large numbers without it being exposed in the context window. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have seen those, and it's some interesting stuff. So just to summarize what the problem is, and let's see if I've got root code or something where I've got this working, and I can more visually display it. Do I got root code here? Oh, I got this.
I see client on the bottom.
Yeah, I was looking for root because I think I might have had that already going here. And MCP servers. No, I don't get any MCP servers in this one. But basically, here's what I'll just show it to you here. I'll show you the problem. All right. So when we go to, let's go to one that's super verbose, like Flow Nexus. You see, I've got 94 tools. 94 tools inherently isn't that big a deal, but the problem is when I go and I give you the tools, I give you a ton of information on how to use the tools, right? And so the verbosity is in this part. So the challenge, and so basically what they're saying is don't make these descriptions overly verbose, and you'll use less context window. Now, the problem is not that this one's particularly verbose, but when you multiply this times all these various things I have, look, there's like 90 something things, that all starts to add up, right? Each of these has these descriptions and parameters. Now, the problem is a lot of the MCPs you'll see don't bother with descriptions or other than the sort of idea that here's the tool in which you need to use. And what they're saying essentially is if you label your tool adequately, like you call it something rather than calling it swarm init, you might call your tool something like initialize the swarm before you start anything else, and then you don't give it any kind of detail of what it needs to do, specifically the description, and you're going to save on tokens. But the reality is, when in my tests, when I remove the description altogether, it just doesn't know when to use it. So you need something, and this description that is like 1, 2, 3, 4, like it's like 7 or 8 different words. So it's not exactly hugely verbose. So yes, it's a tricky problem to solve. So what I'm thinking out loud a little bit. So Flow Nexus goes away. And if you want to use some of these tools, what I might do is move them into skills. And then what the skill will do will basically say, if you want to connect to the remote sandbox, then you're going to have to initialize using the MPX. And I can put all the verbosity of the sort of how to use the MCP in the form of a skill that's only invoked if and when you want to use that thing. Right now, everybody has to sort of see all the tools for Flow Nexus, and 5 or 10% of the users ever probably less than 5% of the users ever touch it. So I'm killing your environment for no real reason. So the quickest and easiest solution to that, just right now before I fix it, go here to Flow Nexus and choose disable. No.
Reuven, I just posted an article in the chat that Anthropic published yesterday, which might help with this. Similarly, on the High Five project that I'm working on, we just tackled this issue. We have like 50 plus workflows in our platform, and we were bloating the context window. So we've now modularized that to a system that is kind of like just like hyperlinking. So when the context window loads, it has sort of like a map of everything that it can call with very strict information. And then when it needs to go deeper, it essentially calls a tool to go and fetch as if it's like traversing a web page.
Okay.
Or a directory structure. And Willie V3 in the Claude or in the WhatsApp chat, he's talked about something similar that he worked on, where he was basically able to like ingest and traverse an entire Confluence instance with a method like this.
I think I read through it. I think I'm already doing that though. Like I can't in a minute. I'm gonna fix this one issue first. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna point Claude Flow at that and say how can we optimize based on these suggestions, and we'll see how we further optimize it. But let's see if we've determined how to fix this issue first. Users cannot install Claude Flow, blah blah blah, or any version due to invalid dependency version. All right, investigation latest on impact verification, proposed fix, change line 46. Okay, that's an easy fix. All right, so let's just double check that. So we're gonna go to the package.json. It's package .json line 146. All right, found it. Thank you, Tommy. All right, so I don't think we need it. I don't think we need that at all. Let's get rid of this dependency altogether. Do a point release and push. And Tommy, you're going to be my guinea pig on this push. All right. So I've got the whole environment set up to do these kinds of pushes, to do this super fast. And oh, I get ride. It should know what I meant by ride. So we're gonna fix that. I don't see why. So that's actually before we do. Actually, whatever. We'll. What I would normally do here, actually. Let's test the distro and install in Docker before pushing to npm. Now, I'm pretty sure I don't need to do that because I'm literally just getting rid of one line. But let's go take a look at that, and that's gone, so that's good. I don't think we need the Onyx runtime either. Actually, I'm just gonna delete it. There we go. I also remove Onyx runtime. So what it was doing was it was forcing the dependencies of the sub systems, and essentially that was causing some problems because that was totally the wrong version. And I wasn't, and for whatever reason, it wasn't affecting everyone. As you can tell, I wasn't having any issue with it in my environment. So it was like this weird sort of error where some people were getting, the issue, and I wasn't. Like when I run here mpx, and this is my Claude, it's my agentic flow system at alpha, I'm not getting any errors at all, right? Which makes these sorts of bugs really tricky to fix. All right, back to what I'm doing. I'm pushing a update. It's going to be 2.9, and before we push to node, I'm going to just run it in my Docker environment quick. So you can see I'm doing a Docker file. And now the benefit to all these Docker files, and I got tons of them, and you guys can, if you want, I publish all of them. You can see that I've got my various tests here, so you can see how I'm doing these various tests in these environments. It basically simulates how my package will work remotely. Now, it doesn't do a particularly good job for Macs because Macs use this kind of weird version of Unix, and you can't really run the Mac OS. Well, you can, I guess, but not legally anyway, in a Docker instance particularly easily. So it's a corner case, but if it's affecting Tommy, then it's affecting others, and I want to fix it. And then after we do that, then I'm gonna go check out Ofer's how to do better tool calling, and we'll see if we can optimize the system even further. All right, I apologize. I've gone down. Yeah, I've had the same issue on. I've actually had the same issue. It's just sporadic.
Roof, I've got a slightly not aligned to this, but I wanted to just ask you because when you were showing before Agentic Flow and Cloudflow, I mean, what's your vision? Do you I feel like you are building features of Agentic Flow within Cloudflow as well, or linking them somehow, or do you expect them to run
Yeah.
separate? Vision,
No,
yeah.
so Agentic Flow is, you can see Agentic Flow is a core dependency of Cloudflow. And what was happening was I was going down a monolithic path. And what the problem with the monolithic path was, you can tell I like to build a lot of different things, right? So when you go and you look at my site here on the projects, what was happening, and I don't know why I'm getting these download issue. that's a weird one. But anyway, what was happening was each of these was in order to make it, I was struggling to take the bits and pieces that I wanted from Claude Flow and use them in other things without having to have all this other stuff I didn't need. So, for example, when you look at my neurosymbolic security system, this is essentially a version of the reasoning system and the agentic DB system and the and agentic flow that I've now repackaged. So I can mix and match the pieces much more easily to create new things with them. But they're all kind of variants in essence, except of either agent DB or the agentic swarm system or agentic flow system, I should say. So they're modular, I guess, might be the easier explanation. Let's jump back for a moment.
And
All right, build.
in agentic flow, obviously we have to do it through an NPX and API, specify the APIs. I think there was on the chat a mention about like some kind of an OAuth capability, like because we have the Claude subscription or Gemini or OpenAI subscriptions. Currently, you require an API key to be provided for. Is that going to be the way, or can we leverage our subscriptions to use?
If you want to use your subscriptions, use Claude Code. That's what it's and that's the point of it. If you want to run things that are running, not that are being invoked through like an SDK or running on different providers, then you're going to use Agentic Flow, right? And the terms of service of Claude Code prohibit me from specifically using that, using Claude Max or Pro for agents. And I don't hear a lot from Anthropic until I do something they don't like, and apparently they didn't like that. So if you're building enterprise applications, things that need to run outside of Claude Code, you're not allowed to use your Pro or Max account to do that. So they're basically, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. All right. So I'm not doing it. That said, you can use local Onyx models. You can use any of the models from Open Router and Agentic Flow, and then have Claude Code proxy it, and then you don't have to pay for the Max account, which is a nice feature. So it's a balance here with their terms of use. And I don't want to, I've already gotten in trouble for the original Swarm where they had to change their business model because of the success of our swarms. So I try to make more friends than enemies, I guess. All right, so I'm just finishing up that package. So let's jump around for a moment. Let's go back here. So this is my Claude. Let's go. This is the one I want to show you. All right, this is actually my local environment. So this is using the DevPod. You can see here that I'm my sort of local directory path. Now I'm going to run the npx agentic flow, and I'm going to do help. And just make sure everything works. Give that a second. It might have to install. Give that a second to do its thing. Here we go. Okay. So there was a question earlier in regards to like how this works. And oh, by the way, I saw a note from Ocean. Everything you see here, by the way, is Rust. The entire underlying neural structure, the vector structure, the logics and reasoning bank, that's all Rust. I built it in Rust, compiled it to a WASM, and then that is what's being executed in these systems. So the only thing I'm really using the TypeScript and Node.js stuff for is scaffolding, the glue that sits around it, the stuff that invokes like the API that then connects to the WASM. So it is all Rust. All right. So, but back here, this is not made for you. Like, look how much stuff I've gotten here. The purpose of this isn't for you to read through it and try to figure out all the variables and this is meant for the AI, right? So when you go into your dangerously skip permission, and you're going to ask it something like, how can I use the agentic flow proxy Claude command, and then I'm going to remind it what the command is. Agentic flow -- help review and give me a plan to execute with Claude code, something like that. So what's going to happen now is it's going to look at all that stuff I put in there, and this was back to the idea of sort of segmenting your tool usage. The reality is using the MCP is going to always be more verbose, take up more context, and it isn't optimal. Before MCPs existed, the CLI was the way you did it. So a lot of the stuff I'm building is actually CLI centric. So when you're using the hooks here in the settings file, you'll notice that I'm actually not using the MCPs, even though the MCPs all have the same options. I'm just calling the hook. Right, you can see here that it's the MPX Cloudflow alpha hooks, and now and that's it. And then I'm dynamically generating context windows and inserting that in there, and that's just a more efficient and effective way. And the benefit of this is it doesn't actually affect your context window at all, because it's working at pre or post or pre-compact sort of tool use, so it doesn't interfere directly. It kind of works alongside, and that's why I'm doing it that way. All right, so now it's going to do a bit of analysis. So I'm gonna let that cook for a minute, and I'm going to go back here and see if we fixed. All right, so so now I'm going to push the next. Okay, successfully published. All right. Now whoever's having that issue, let's go see if that's fixed. So Tommy, if you're still on the line, this is what you're going to need to do. I'm going to go back here, and first I'm going to confirm that I didn't break it worse than it was. The Docker instance should have addressed that. So now I'm going to do version 2.9, looks good. So you see what's happening here. Because I'm using hooks, it auto installs, right? Then that's the benefit to the MPX. As soon as the hook was called, and the first time the hook was called, it would have automatically installed the most recent version. That's a two-sided problem, right? The benefit is you automatically get my fixes. The drawback is you automatically get my bugs. So so it's a balance, so I like the fact that I'm pushing the updates immediately. You're getting it. It's sort of kind of a prompt injection or an MPC or MCP injection as well. If you are worried about that, what you need to do is you need to move away from the MPX command here and use the .claude flow, which is essentially a wrapper. So in this particular scenario, it would wrap the system and install it globally. Now that means you're locked to this particular version, which is good if you're doing something where you're worried about the system changing. Let's say you're building an app and you never want it to change, then you're going to want to lock it to a particular version, and you're not going to want to get the most recent version. It's bad, if you want all the latest greatest stuff. That's what the @alpha does. The @alpha essentially gives you the most recent version alpha, which is what I just pushed a few minutes ago.
I was able to check and update it, and it's now working. So I got this version 2.7.29 from npm installed, but I first had to reset my cache from the node. I will put the command to resetting the cache of npm
Okay.
the chat, but it's working. Thank you very much for that.
My pleasure, and thank you for being a my beta tester. And I again to the Tommy's perfect because he's nice and polite and it helps me work through the bugs. It's the random people that message me on social media that have really nasty things on the free app that I gave them that it makes me wonder. It's at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know where, I guess when you don't charge for something, it makes people more susceptible to saying mean things, I guess. But anyway, I digress. Be nice is what be like Tommy is what is what I'm suggesting. And sorry, Timu. I get you and your brother mixed up. Does that happen to you a lot?
Sometimes a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry about that. And by the way, I've got a twin sister. No one's ever mixed us up, I guess. Well, people ask me all the time if my twin sister is identical, which is a weird question to ask someone that's a male with a twin sister. But anyway. All right, so let's go back here to the other. Got too many things open. Plod code. This has been published. Okay, so my last step here is I'm going to create a PR, create a detailed release issue using the CLI for the last 2 point releases. Update the change log.md and create a PR. So what you just saw, this is how I do updates. Sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes not. But this is exactly how this is the process. Now, a couple things you're not seeing that you're gonna, if you're creating your own NPMs, I've previously logged into the NPM, so NPM auth login or something like that. And I've also got the environmental variables set up, which I'm not showing you for some of the other sort of GitHub related things I'm doing. One of the things you're going to notice if you're using a code space in GitHub, you automatically get local access to the GitHub. If you're using this in the DevPod, you're going to have to use a personal access key, and that's you're going to have to set that up separately. So in this case, I don't have a personal access key set up in this particular environment. But we're going to go back.
That's it.
What's that?
Just run gh auth login.
Yeah, gh log that works too. Yeah. And then update your Claude.md file to tell it to use the gh in a particular way. But I think if you're using Cloudflow, you get that automatically. It just defaults to gh. So you should be good to go there. Yeah, basically most of these have some sort of login. Right. So what was the question I asked it earlier? I've been blabbing. I kind of remember. Verify the system Agentic flow is running 15 MCP tools. Let me create a comprehensive plan. Integration, proxy setup. So the proxy, all right. Quick reference. It went overboard. Just how do I invoke the proxy and use it in Claude code? Just tell me. As a 10, like I took my eye off the ball for like 5 seconds and it went and created a whole bunch of documentation. Like I don't need a bunch of documentation. Just tell me what it is. All right, here we go. This is what we wanted to know. How to use the Agentic Flow proxy with Claude Code. Go to Open Router, get your key, export it. No, that's not how you do it. No, it lies. That isn't the let's just look at it. I'm just go to MPX. It could have been because I didn't ask the right way, but this is the problem you run into. It literally made that up. That was not true. None of that was true. Well, the part where you signed up for Open Router was true. Right. There's where did I put that? Agentic code. Claude. Provider. I flow, start with a specific server. There is command. There's a couple ways to do it. No, I want to, I might have to update my documentation. I want to use the proxy. Start it. I've spent most of my time on this actually using it not specifically with Claude code override. Oh, here it is. Fuck. Oh, yeah, it was right. This is how you do it. Okay, it wasn't lying. It just was skipping the part where you needed to do this. So it's actually, yeah, it's, all right, give it a sec to do its thing. I mean, agent. Oh, that's an interesting one. I gotta fix my, I gotta. That might be a bug. All right, well, we'll fix that. We're gonna fix that too. All right, let's jump in. Today's the day. Today you're watching me bug fix. All right, found another bug. So that explains why people are having trouble. All right, so let's go back here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Agentic flow. All right. Turns out this wasn't the error. So I'm gonna go DSP. And then we're gonna go back to this one. And looks like Agentic, where was it? Agentic, this one, right through. This seems to not work. It's probably a minor. The instructions in, okay, create a new GitHub issue for the Claude code help instructions in Agentic flow. This doesn't seem to be. I know it works. It's just the definition isn't correct. So then I'm going to go back here.
I'm sorry, what is Claude-code?
The Claude-code is the subcommand. So in this case, when you go here, and that actually might that's actually a good point. So I go here and do Claude-code. That's a secondary command. Oh, there we go. It does work. There you go. Okay. So what you're seeing when you do the MPX Agentics, is this routes it through a proxy. So notice here it's saying, this information, you're gonna want to say yes. And now you're going to say, well, what's this ridiculously, proxy, your API key here? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm actually just using a placeholder and then using the proxy itself to reroute the requests to OpenRouter, Gemini, or Onyx. So, and I'm also, when you're using the proxy, you're also getting the AST, which is the mechanisms that I use to write the actual like code. So rather than asking the LLM to give me the diff, I'm actually doing the diff locally, which makes it way faster, using a WASM there as well. And I don't know if I have my env set up, so I'm not gonna do that, but it does work. So it looks, generally speaking, the issue is this agents isn't correct. So I'm just gonna quickly fix that. It look when I run.
Where are you
Just
putting the placeholder? Is it on? It's basically an environment file, is it?
Yeah, it's in the env, or you can also export it, but generally I just use an env.
So it's just a placeholder basically of a similar, and it's not a real key, obviously.
No, you're not putting this key anywhere. This is me generating that key. You're just adding your OpenRouter or your Gemini key. So let me explain it differently. The Claude code system allows you to run against things like your own API, your own Anthropic key, which this would be. It also allows you to rewrite the location of the LLM provider. So you can use things like Bedrock or I think Gemini also supports Sonnet. And so what I did is I said, okay, now that I know that I can rewrite and use that, I can force a proxy, and then I can redirect the requests to alternate providers, and then I make the requests in the same way that Claude Code expects the requests to be made, which is different on different providers. So, OpenAI uses different embeddings and structures and requests. So I'm rewriting it in the way that looks right to Claude Code. Inversely, on the response, which also needs to look a certain way for Claude Code, I'm using the proxy on sort of bilateral form. On the way back, I'm rewriting those responses to look correct to Claude Code. So Claude Code essentially sees that information in the way Claude Code's expecting it to be seen. If I was just to point it at Gemini without, not Gemini like Sonnet Gemini, but Gemini, it wouldn't work, because the structure for both the request and response is actually different than what's expected. That's what the proxy is doing.
Can you point it to Azure, or because they have Codex hosted on Azure? Can you point it there?
You want to use Codex as an LLM? I'm not sure I understand it.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, it would probably take a lot of finagling, but hypothetically, we could rewrite the responses to be so rather than there being a chat style completion, we could rewrite the codex output, which has a stream option, and rewrite that to look like a stream from Anthropic's API. I'm guessing that would be, how would I do that? I think yeah, this is how I do it. I'd use Midstreamer. That's what Midstreamer does. So Midstreamer essentially allows me to go and sort of do real-time introspection and modification of the stream itself. So if I'm streaming the response from Codex, then I can rewrite and restructure that stream to look exactly like how it expects it to look. That's how I do it.
It wouldn't do anything dramatic to the latency?
No, this Midstreamer is ridiculously low latency. So I'm getting, yeah, here we go. Here's my performance benchmarks. So the WASM is running at like 0.05 milliseconds. So we're talking microseconds essentially. And you can see here as it scales, I'm still at a 1 millisecond structure. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I
that's
could.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could literally have thousands and thousands of concurrent users using my service. I could rewrite the codex stream in real time, and it's happening so quickly that they would never notice the difference. Because remember, the response time on the initial sort of handshake to the LLM is like 300 milliseconds to Anthropic and ChatGPT, and that's when it's not even suffering. That's like the best I've ever seen it. On like a Thursday afternoon, it's probably like 700 or 800 milliseconds. So in the time of 1 millisecond, or even this, so you can do the math. It's just thousands or probably millions of different.
At this point in time, you haven't got it configured to be able to talk to GPT-5 codex hosted either on
I've got
OpenAI
it.
or Azure.
I do have it for GPT-5, just not for Codex. So the actual the actual rewriting for Open Router and Gemini is using that technique that I'm showing you.
Right. Yeah,
But
well,
I'm not rewriting Codex, because to be honest, it never occurred to me to rewrite the stream output of a coding system. But it's not a bad idea.
Hey there, guys. I wanted to ask one question. How can we build an MCP server like based on custom MCP tools?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Just ask Claude Code. I'm not sure. Maybe ask it a different way.
Like based on technical structures, like what back knowledge I need to know about servers and all to build an MCP server as a student.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. How can you quickly create an MCP server? So
Yeah.
you'll notice that all my various tools I've got are MCP servers. Like everything I build, like you can pretty much assume that if it's one of my projects that I built in the last few months, it's going to have an MCP server. There's my preference towards MCP servers are essentially to use MCP libraries. In particular, I use the fast MCP library for TypeScript. The Python one's actually really good as well. And I prefer that over the default MCP SDK. So what I'm really doing is I'm just asking Claude Code to build me an MCP server. Now, I have the advantage of having all these systems that already have MCP servers in them. So really what I'm doing is I'm saying, build me an MCP server like the way I've already built my MCP servers, a dozen times before. So it can see, like in the case of Agentic Flow here, it can see the MCP server that I previously built, right? So if I'm building a sort of secondary system, which you see like this week I built lots of different secondary systems. Here's Research Swarm. So the Research Swarm system, essentially has an MCP server in it. This MCP server is actually using the Model Protocol SDK. I spoke too soon. But anyway, it's essentially just, creating the structures, right? So after I'm done getting the core functionality, which is almost always the CLI, then I slap an MCP server on it because it makes it easy to integrate with my various skills and agents and stuff like that. But you can see here, this is the
Okay,
basic
so like that
structure.
is a system. That is the system design principles you're using for building a server.
Yep. This is it. It's 394 lines of code. That's it. That's all you need. I'm gonna give that to you guys right now, actually. One sec. And where's my window? And we'll go here. I'm gonna go to gist. And I got a new computer. I got to log into everything. Just GitHub. You can't see my laptop, but it's one of those Asus with two screens. My kids making fun of me saying I need too many screens. All right, I'm gonna call it Reuven MCP. What was that again? It was a JS. Quick MCP server. Reuven style. I should right, create public gist. There we go. Point Claude at this page. Right, there you go. Yeah, point Claude at this page. Build whatever you're gonna build, and then just say build me an MCP server at the end. You'll see here that I got two implementations. I'm using the SSE implementation and Studio. Studio is more secure. SSE is more accessible. So like when depends on what you're doing. I generally steer clear of using SSE style MCP servers, but depending on the service you're building, it could be okay. All right, I'm gonna jump back.
Getting back to that proxy thing. So you were showing us that you can have the proxy running in Claude Code. So presumably once it's running in Claude Code, then everything else you do with Claude Flow within Claude Code just works through that proxy, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what's happening. And by the way, it does work. The issue that you were facing is I was adding too much explanation. So now what I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to fix the dialogue to include, and verify each of the commands are correct and functional. This is a side effect of two things. Me doing too much stuff. Ultimately, when there's wrong help descriptions, it's on me for not closely enough checking, so that's me stretched too thin. That's more vibing than engineering. And ultimately the buck stops with me. It doesn't work because I didn't check it. It's hard to check a lot of things, but the most important thing I should check is the help, because as I tell you, the help is built for the system to figure out how to use the system. So if it's not right, it just confuses everybody, and it's bad. And secondly, it's a velocity thing. The more stuff you create, the more bugs you're going to create, and it's hard to see and do and juggle. And anyway, that's why we do these calls. I'm going to fix it right now. So and include.
Speaking about information, when you run agentic flow config, it gives you several keys that you can set, but for example, it does not know that you can point it at Gemini. So it's in this help file that you printed. You've got the environment variables for Gemini, but it's not in the config program.
I'm not. So sorry, I'm not sure I understand. So you're saying when you run help, it doesn't.
When you run help, you see how to point it at Gemini. But when you run agentic flow config, it's not there. So the program to set the variables, it doesn't know about that.
Okay. Let's do that as a separate problem. But
Yeah, sure.
I think, but yeah, let's fix that too. So right now I'm just going to review the help dialog and verify each of the commands are correct and functional. Include the Claude code base proxy options, not just the agent. Now this again, I built it mostly to be an agent, and so the part of this that's was a little confusing was the fact that it could also proxy Claude code directly. So I'm just going to improve the help there. All right, the next problem you were mentioning, we'll go DSP. So you're saying the .env instructions for Gemini. So say that again. You're saying the Gemini.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when you run agentic flow config. That runs you through a short wizard for setting the environment variables.
Okay.
And that doesn't cover Gemini.
Agentic flow. All right, let's take a look at that quick. So that's an easy fix. We'll do that while we're at it. So
the Gemini is mentioned in the help, which we'll see on the screen in a second. But if you run agentic flow config and it starts a little wizard for setting those variables, Gemini is not mentioned there. It's a shorter repertoire.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, let's fix that.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. So I'm a one-man band here too, by the way. Okay.
Well, you've got a little small support group.
Yeah, this is turned into the debugging episode, but hey, why not? All right, I see what you're saying. So
I was
we're gonna go.
say, before I knew that you had this built in, I actually just ended up using Claude Code Router, which I just posted in there, and that works fine with pretty much every provider that I've thrown at.
It's just slow and not local, and it's a man-in-the-middle attack.
Yes, it is.
I just don't like man-in-the-middle attacks. So the benefit to this is it's highly secure. You can use my obfuscation to do PII obfuscation, key obfuscation, and you get the obfuscation out of the box. You have to disable the obfuscation. So basically, if you use my proxy, they're not stealing your information because I'm stripping it before they ever have a chance to leave your environment. These guys are taking all your information. Maybe they're benevolent, but regardless, exactly why you don't want to use
I mean, that one,
proxy.
the way I have it running, I think it's less likely for them to do that unless they've hidden the back door, which I mean, I don't put that against.
Have you looked at Lite LLM as a open source local router?
Yeah, that I've used that one as well. Not with
super
slow though.
Super slow. It suffers from Python. It works 100%, and for most things, you're probably more than fine with it, especially if you're running locally. But the real question is, do I want to devote 40% of my RAM to the proxy? And that's if I'm not even hitting it very hard. If you use my approach, I'm using 0.01% of your RAM, and I'm 1,000 times faster.
Yeah,
So it's
I've used Cloud Code Router, and my impression was that it was actually slowing things down quite substantially as well.
substantially, yeah. It's because they're my guess. I don't know how they built it, but I'm going to go on a limb here and say they built it using light LLM, and they are probably using a crappy round robin style, load balancing, maybe Nginx. All those things are probably inducing latency, significant latency. And what's going to happen is the more it's used at certain times, you're going to have the sort of nasty neighbor effect. None of that happens with the approach that I have because there's no nasty neighbors. And if you do create a service that you're offering to the world, then you can because it's Rust and high speed, you're going to have to pound the crap out of it before you'd ever get to a problem, which would probably be millions of users.
Okay,
These guys are falling down at hundreds.
One other question. If we run your proxy the way you've showed, a couple of minutes ago, so you run it so that Cloud Code is using it, and then you can use Cloud Flow to go through it as well. Does that functionality of picking an optimal model so that it's cheaper, does that also work in this scenario, or does that only work if you're using it in agentic flow?
Yeah, so I've been meaning to, I haven't implemented my reasoning bank and learning capabilities yet, but this was a rudimentary version of what led to the reasoning bank concept of sort of self-learning structures. So what that's actually doing in the agentic flow system is it's doing an analysis based on the cost of all the different providers, generally speaking from Open Router, because that gives you the most. And then it's basically doing a quick comparison of the cost of each of those. And then I've got a benchmarking system that basically, if you don't mind spending the money, will then make a quick request to each and look at things like the effectiveness, the time it takes to get the response, the quality of the response, and whether or not it gives you an error, basically, because some of the Open Router models just straight up don't work, and they, if you tried some of them, the free ones in particular. And then based on that, it creates a kind of graph structure that says, here are all the different options available to you. Here's the cost. And then when you use the optimize option, I'm going to jump back here to this one. Yeah, when you see that I think I've got this in here, the optimize option. Yeah, where did I put that? Optimize, yeah. So that's what's happening here. So the straight up optimize is just trying to figure it out and learn. And I should probably implement the reasoning bank. It's going to improve that, I would guess. Because if I use the reasoning bank, I can look at it from a temporal lens as well over a period of time, low latency or long horizon. And this is particularly useful if you've got a long running agentic process. So hypothetically, let's say you've got an agent that needs to run forever, and the agent is monitoring your ads. I'm just making it up. And as people buy and interact with your products, it's that the flow of information is going directly to and from the agent that's running perpetually. Now, certain things are going to happen over the life expectancy of that agent. Periodically models stop working, generally in the middle of the night when you're not looking. What this feature would allow you to do is to create a prioritization of when and how their secondary models will automatically be invoked. So I might have the primary model. I don't know, something expensive. A primary model being expensive makes no sense, but let's just for description purposes say my primary model is the most expensive version of Claude. And if that fails, then the second best model based on either the optimization of quality or speed or privacy are going to be taken into consideration. Now, if I have got cost as the primary consideration, then it might choose DeepSeek, right? And that's by far the cheapest and most performant of the models. I know everyone loves GLM, but DeepSeek's better, at least for the stuff I'm doing. And it's 98.5% cheaper than the Sonnet 4.5. Now, I might be more concerned about quality. Now, but the other thing to keep in mind here, not only am I working against the quality metric and the cost metric and the speed metric of the provider, I'm also, if I'm using the reasoning capabilities, learning how to interact with the AI effectively. So what that means is as you use the system more, the shittier models become better because it has the ability to reference the reasoning bank before it makes the request to the model. And if it's also tracking which model it's making the request to. So if 2 weeks ago Anthropic went down and it suddenly had to go to some crappy, Chinese model, it remembers that 2 weeks ago that when we made that request to that model, we had to slightly change the way we made that request to get the adequate response. And therefore, I'm not going through that whole series of steps to debug that problem we already solved 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think there's layers of context optimization, right? So there's a context around each model that makes it operate better. There's a context in each agent and each skill that you can optimize. And that's really how the models learn without fine tuning. It's to do better, right? So I think even at the project level, I think there's context. Like I'm building X, I'm using these dumb agents that also have context and optimized. Anyways.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's the thing about machine learning. And we've become addicted to this idea of GPU-centric machine learning, where we're like everything's brute force. And what Guy's describing is finesse. What we need to do is contextually understand what the problem is. Have we ever encountered that problem before? And do so in a way that is expedient to the point where we can get the answer faster than the system can think traditionally, right? And that's the challenge with the machine learning model, the sort of monolithic GPU-centric machine learning model, is you're often depending on pre-training that's saying that I'm going to try to solve all the problems before they're a problem, and then if I've solved enough of them, the system can infer that other related problems, which relates to this. It creates hallucinations, right? Because it's every time you have to infer, there's the chance of that inference being incorrect, which we saw earlier in one of my problems. So this is not inferring. This is basically saying, has this happened before? And I guess it's inferring, but it's inferring in a way that's more grounded and way faster. So I'm doing this in less than 5 milliseconds, and sometimes less than 1 millisecond, where that same inference in an LLM is taking 300 plus milliseconds. All right. So now we're updating the proxy, distinguish between the two use cases. I'm just reminding me which one I'm looking at. All the main were correctly. Major document issue. Turns out that was the major document issue. All right, let's go. Key distinction Cloud Code command, spawns Cloud Code IDE, auto configures the proxy. By the way, there's another project that I did a while back that separated that into its own thing if you guys want to build like services around it. NPM, I think it was called Agent Booster. No, I didn't type that right. Agent. I have a tendency to call it Agentic, but I don't think I call it, Agent Booster. So Agent Booster is basically just that one piece. If you want to, build stuff with it. This is kind of a cool little tool. In this one I created a API endpoints, so you could create whatever tool you want to create with it. Yeah, I'll pop that in there for you guys.
At this point, the proxy, if you run it in Cloud Code, it doesn't juggle calls between various models, or does it?
It does. It just needs to be configured.
And
So
how do we do that?
I need to create a tutorial on that. So that's how I'm doing my long horizon agents. So a lot of the customers that I'm building for are they're essentially building personas of people who do different jobs that already exist in their business, right? And when I show up, they're like, well, how do we make, XYZ person, work 24/7? And I'm talking plainly right now, but basically that's what I'm doing. And when I'm using my agentic flow, I'm instrumenting the system to automatically invoke different settings and capabilities within the MPX itself based on certain criteria. So essentially, it can sort of reinstantiate itself. It can, if something fails, there's fallbacks. I'm creating configurations to do that. I can't show you that right now because I would have to show you one of my clients, and they probably don't want me showing the inner workings of their systems. So what I'll do is I probably need to create a better tutorial to show you exactly how to do that. But what you could do if you wanted to create a agent that runs forever and has some sort of cascading series of different models it uses, then you basically can point it at my MPX agentic flow. But rather than saying, look at the help file, ask it to look at the node modules folder for the MPX. And what I've done inside the node modules folder is in my distribution, I've included a bunch of docs that gives it instructions on how it's built and how it's meant to be used. So when you go into this docs folder, this is actually being included in the distribution, mostly for, introspection of Claude code if you want to build and see how I did things. So I also included all the release notes and sort of updates and things like that. So, and there's also a change log, which would give you ideas of what's changed or how it works. All right, so what was fixed? I've successfully completed all the fixes for the Claude code command structure. All right. That looks good. Now over here, okay, so this was a different issue. This issue was the add Gemini configuration wizard. So now what I'm going to do, I'm actually not going to do it here. I'm going to go to the other Claude instance, which is still fresh with the other fix it just did. And I'm going to say review and fix and reply once confirmed. Now, the reason I'm switching over there is because this has just done a relatively similar fix to the help dialog. Now I'm making a fix to the config process, which is kind of intertwined in the same file, right? You can see that in this one here, wherever we can go up here, let's see where it actually fixed it. It's in the CLI proxy file, and I know that it's in the same file. So since it's already familiar with the file, I'm skipping a few steps to get it to do exactly where it needs to do it. But you can see here, if you want to take a look while it does its thing, you can see how I'm doing the includes. You can see that the vast majority of everything I'm doing is essentially proxied automatically. So you get the proxy by default, locally, that is. By the way, this is pretty crazy stuff, I might add. Let me pause here. I've been blabbing for almost an hour and a half. Is this stuff helpful? You just watched me debug for an hour and a half.
I think a lot of people are beginning to realize how the different kind of problems that arise within agentic engineering. It solves many other problems in artisanal engineering. It just replaces them with new ones.
The biggest issue I face is volume and velocity. Double V, I think. I'm creating too much. You guys see it, right? I'm just creating way too much stuff. And the side effect of creating so much stuff is essentially bugs and weird quirks and potentially security vulnerabilities. I try my best to avoid those things, obviously, and that's why I create systems that automatically check the security. and the volume and velocity. I'm moving fast. I've literally moved on. You're watching me fix you. I fixed Claude Flow. Thank you, Timu. And now I'm fixing the agentic flow system. You know, and these are all intertwined with each other a little bit, right? And that's the challenge I'm having here.
Rue, for me, I hope you don't take this as an insult, but I take it a lot like watching Bob Ross paint. You know, you're just kind of showing us how you do it and making it look easy, but still you're learning from it. You're watching how, you know, your thought process as you do it, as you're adding the strokes, adding the pieces to it. You're just kind of taking us through it, making it look easy, but it's definitely helpful, and you do pick some things up as you're watching, and it's just sort of hearing you think aloud as you go. That it's more that aspect than sort of anything specific about Bob Ross. It's just that think aloud as you go, as you're doing the work. And so again, hopefully that's not taken the wrong way, but I find it really helpful and sort of soothing to kind of think as you're going through it, oh, these are things that even Reuven goes through as he's trying to put this stuff together. So that's just my take on it.
Well, I appreciate that, because that's exactly what I'm doing. You guys are getting a glimpse into what I'm doing at 2 o'clock in the morning. So just as an overview of what's actually happening, which is interesting. It started here by, you know, it said it has the OpenRouter config. And in fairness, I was doing most of my testing with OpenRouter. That's why I probably missed the Gemini stuff. Then it added the Gemini key option. And it's not required, which is good. And again, review what it's doing. And if I really want to take a closer look, I could do Control-O. It's added the option for the Gemini. The Onyx thing also is a little quirky, I might add. So now I get Gemini. It's adding some Gemini details to the actual config wizard, which makes sense. We'll see where it's adding it. We've got the more provider options. It's added that. And then it's testing it. Now, thank goodness it's decided not to actually show the full in ENV, because I wasn't looking forward to having to go and do new ENVs this afternoon. Then it tried to run it. It tried to run it with a bad key, and it got an error, which it means that it was likely works with a real key, but not with a fake key. So needs better error handling. Setting the provider also needs better error handling. Now, keep in mind, it's actually running this as the Cloudflow MPX rather than the local bin. That means it's using the published version versus the dev version. Keep in mind, I'm in the dev environment, but this is actually a smart way to do it, because we want to see how it breaks for everybody else. This showed exactly how it's breaking for other people, so it found basically a couple errors, specifically relating to Gemini. At which point it says it found the error relating in the build, which is good, which is basically it included a comma, which is whatever. Anyway, perfect. So now it's running it with now it should run it with the actual key here. I don't know if I actually have a Gemini key in this environment. I have to check. But according to this, it's fixed. Now, I'm not going to open up my ENV and look if I had a key to use right now, because I don't want to show you my keys. So before I publish it, I'm not quite ready. It's telling me it's fixed, but it lies. It lies a lot, and I'm not convinced it's fixed. It looks generally like it did the right things to fix it, and it's creating an issue, which I'm going to take a look at here in a minute, but I'm not convinced until I can actually run the Gemini API key and see the response from Gemini in a way in both my agent and in Claude code. At which point I'll be like, yep, it works for me. Then I'm going to publish it, and then someone else will say it doesn't work for them or something, but it'll work for me anyway.
Yes, if in the config you say that it's supposed to force using Gemini, it will then use Gemini for all the coding work?
Yeah, that's exactly what'll happen. It'll in both and if you're using the Claude Code agentic flow option, and remember when you do that, just as an FYI, I showed you guys this earlier. Where was it? Don't use that. Use yes. Right. This, if you go with no recommended, it's just going to use your existing Pro Max account or whatever, and then what's the point of that? So for example, when I run out of usage credits on Claude, this is how I keep working. And I generally, lately I've been just switching to Gemini. It's good enough. It's fast. It's cheap. Was it Gemini? Now that I think it was Gemini. Anyway,
Ruth, how do we? Sorry, I was just got a question. How do we, if we've answered no to that initially, how can we reset it back to yes? How can we get back to that question?
I think you just run this again.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
That was my question as well. Like if I select a open, like I was trying a basic setup with OpenRouter, I put the API keys. Like Peter asked about setting those config, right? I went through the process, but then although I've entered a correct OpenRouter key, it seems to give an API error because it can't find a model. So I'm just now wondering, like, how do I reset back to use Anthropic as the?
You have to edit the. I think it's in. I'll have to get back to you on that. How do you switch back to the original? For me, how was I doing that? I'll have to. I think there's a file it sets. Where the heck did it put it? It's probably not this one. I gotta go. Let's look at this one. I'm not gonna.
I think it's in the env local.
Yeah. I think it might be the env local as well. I will bring it up because I don't want to show you guys that right now.
Oh, okay.
But it's I'll have to get back. Okay, let's ask.
I've got my own on screen right now, and I see that all these false numbers, keys, it's all in the env local. So if you edit that, you're going to change your status.
Yeah, that's how I'm doing. I'm exporting. So that's how I'm doing it. I'm exporting the Anthropic key. I'm not using the env. So I'm using an export, and I manage my keys via GitHub key, whatever they call it, secrets and variables. And when I create a new DSP, dangerously skip permission, it asks me every time. And then if I want to use Anthropic, I choose no. And if I want to use my proxy, I think I get those right. Yeah, if I want to use Anthropic, I choose no. And if I want to use my proxy, I choose yes. That's how I'm doing it. All right, let's go, and I guess let's see here. Last one. All right. Did we? I'm not going to do that. I don't want to show you my token. So, but you're gonna, as soon as this call ends, I'm basically going to do one final Gemini test. Then I'm going to publish this. So a couple things to note. I've upgraded the help. So hopefully the help is correct now. For those who are trying to use it, again, it's just the Claude code command after it. So you're just going here and typing this. The Gemini should be fixed here in a moment. There's probably other bugs, I guess. Let me know, I'll fix them. But the agent system's what I use the most.
Okay. So
this is, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's me kind of getting up to speed to understand this. So this command, all it is doing is, if I, for example, run out of my token usage under my Max account, I can continue work using this with my API key from Agentic through this it through agentic flow, basically proxying into Cloud Code, right? So Cloud Code.
Yes. And specifically, until I do the push, Open Router. So here in a few minutes, I'm going to do the push, which will fix the Gemini issue. I think I thought I was using Gemini. I might have been using Gemini or something through Open Router, or maybe I was using DeepSeek. I might just be confused because there was definitely a Gemini issue. So likely Gemini isn't going to work until I push the update.
You did say DeepSeek in a chat actually when I had said like when we had the cloud outage. I think.
Yeah, DeepSeek is by far the most cost efficient and effective. And again, the question people are going to have around DeepSeek is obviously the Chinese stuff, and that's why I've got the proxy. So, and the obfuscation capabilities. So, you're basically going to want to use the obfuscation as part of either the hooks or the proxy or both, and that'll strip out any personal identifiable information, private keys, and things like that. At which point, I think you're pretty comfortable to use the Chinese models. I've gotten rid of anything that's going to be problematic. Now, the side effect of heavy obfuscation is going to be contextual awareness of things, right? When it's not able to see the direct environmental variable itself, it can get confused, right? It's like it doesn't understand why that thing that it's trying to send isn't being received in the way that it's expected to, right? It's like, I just sent the EMB and I got back a weird response. So that's where the reasoning bank comes into play, right? So the first few times you use it, it's gonna be like, I don't get it. It's not getting all the information. Then you might prompt it and say, well, we're obfuscating or something, or maybe it just discovers it by itself. Later, it tries it. It knows that there's this obfuscation happening.
Okay.
All right.
I managed to get it started actually.
All right. Look at us. Great. Hopefully I've fixed more bugs that I've created today, but I can't necessarily say that's a given. But it does a lot, right? Like for one guy in Oakville, Ontario, I'm really cranking out a lot of stuff here.
No question about it.
Yeah.
So
with this, yeah, like everything I'm building are using these pieces, like to some degree.
I don't know about everybody else, but you're cranking this stuff out about 5 times faster than I can read it. So never mind learn it.
If I was, if I was looking at being an agentic engineer today and differentiating myself heavily from the rest of the world, who are glamorized AI researchers that don't actually have any real practical application of the things that they're researching, I would focus specifically on the techniques that I've been doing around AgentDB, the idea of sort of CPU-centric machine learning and vector sort of similarities in not requiring heavy GPU components. And secondly, I would look at the mechanisms that I've been showing you here around agentic flow and how I'm handling sort of the intersection of high-speed proxying, the ideas around using sort of reasoning banks within that structure. And again, the reasoning banks is essentially AgentDB. And how those things all kind of work together to get better. Now, the last thing I would also suggest, before you deploy, if you're giving like a client presentation, you built some, replacement for their whatever job or whatever they're doing, do a kind of active pre-training. Ask Claude to go and use the reasoning bank, train it until you get some level of coherence that basically is benchmarkable, improvable, and repeatable. Then you're ready to deploy it.
Potentially shallower on solve a problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is, other than that you're able to use LLMs and the ability for them to orchestrate them to build code or applications that solves the problem. That's it.
Yeah. solve a problem. I think that's well stated. The idea that it lies to you and is giving you the path of least resistance to solve the problem is negated by solving the problem in a provable way. If you, to Jed's point, if your goal is to do a task the same way every time and get this and get a result that's meaningful and valuable to whatever job it is doing, and you can see it and understand it, then it works. Now, once you've got it working, then you get the question of scaling it and securing it, but that's a secondary problem. Most of the projects you're going to do as an agentic engineer right now are in the realm of, is it possible? You know, and if you can at least show that what you're doing is possible, then you're going to get the buy-in to go to the next step, which is basically some likely larger POC, and hopefully at some point some kind of production-based system. But I would say, unless you're a startup, most of the larger businesses I'm seeing today aren't even doing production anyway.
Move.
Comment, Tom?
Yeah. No. If that's finished, can I show you basically just to see if it makes sense, like how I got it to start, and is it the right thing that I got it to start?
Yeah, let's see it.
I'll limit myself to two, probably a minute or two, so I won't take airtime here. So if I am hopefully sharing my screen here, if you could confirm, I've got only one screen.
Yep.
I believe I'm sharing, yeah. So all I did was I think Piotr was correct. It's actually the folder that I was in, the folder from which I was running npx agentic flow agent coder, that one. That's where the .environment file gets created, and that's where all the config information is stored. So all I was testing is that, okay, I want you to review the driver vehicle licensing. I just give it a random prompt and saying, set me up using the developer portal. I want to be able to do something with the data randomly, right? That is what I said. And this time it has picked up. So obviously it's initialized open router proxy. First of all, it couldn't figure out, I think. What did I do? Okay, it did complete it. 1 second. Maybe I am on the wrong place. Yeah. And then it started the process, it looks like, with an agent.
Yeah, coder, yep.
It's completed something. Then it's doing things like looking at the DVLA API requirements, I guess, register what needs to be done. So it's figuring that out. And then it's supposed to be creating some kind of a folder structure, which I'm looking here, but
That's
I'm
not a folder structure. That's a markdown file outlining that it should create a folder structure, but it's not. That's just a markdown file. That's markdown.
Okay. And then it's a lot of markdown information here about what it will do. I'm presuming that's what, and step
That's
1, 2, 3.
markdown. Yeah. What was your original prompt?
My original prompt was, I'm just going up here saying, okay, I'm going to close the side window so it's a bit more easy to read, I guess. Here it was saying that review this web URL and set me up.
That's exactly. So the fact it gave you an MD when you told to review is exactly what it should do. It's interesting that you used a coder to do that, but the coder, like anything else, if you tell it to give you a file like a review, it's going to do that. What you might have wanted to do is tell it to not just review, but build, test, revise, fix, deploy.
Right.
Right? Well, as a matter of fact, I was today running pretty much the same type of experiment, and it also, I told it explicitly to create the files, and it only gave me a markdown on screen.
Yep. So what you could do here to test, and this is how I do it. I don't start with what Manjweep's showing you. What I do is I go into Claude Code, and I'm going to use. So see the coder. Go if you go into agents, and yeah, agents, and I think that's under, where the heck did I put that? It's under development, I think. DevOps must develop. Where do I have that? Maybe core. I get too much stuff. I should probably name it better. Yeah,
Yep,
coder.
coder.
There it is. Coder. Choose that. So this is the coder, right? So this is the agent that is basically doing the work. So you can just as easily take that same prompt that you have here. I want to do whatever, and you can go into Claude Code, with that and just see what happens. And so what I'm doing often, because it's just easier and it's a little more iterative and back and forth when Claude Code, I'm going and using the agent, and then I'm modifying the agent, getting the agent the way I like it. It gives me it'll then save it to a particular location. It'll create, whatever. It'll do all the things it needs to do. Once I'm happy with it in Claude Code, then I go into Agentic Flow and I basically use the same agent again. Keep in mind, any agents you're putting in this agents folder become agents that are available to Claude Flow automatically.
Right.
So you can add, you can modify, you should probably remove. Most of these agents aren't probably needed if you're doing a production deployment. So when I do a production deployment, I'm literally just creating a .claude agents folder on the server with a subfolder called client, whatever the name is, and then the whatever.md to run that agent. And then I'm invoking that agent as part of my runtime, either as a request, a serverless style request. It runs, it does the thing, and it ends, or as some kind of perpetually running service that just does it forever and ever and ever using the stream capabilities of the system.
Okay.
So use Claude Code was the simple, easy, but you've totally got it working. So nice. I'm not totally useless. So that's good news. Oh, this was helpful for everyone. I'm gonna push the update here. While I was blabbing, looks like the Gemini proxy is working. So I'm gonna push the Gemini update here in the next probably hour or so, and you'll be able to use the Gemini components as well. One other thing I'm thinking of doing, because everyone always seems to ask me, is I might do a LangChain implementation of AgentDB. Because apparently everyone uses LangChain. So maybe that'll be something I'll work on at some point in the next, maybe I'll aim for the next week.
I think that's a masochistic streak to use LangChain personally, so.
It's only masochistic
if
you're using it artisanally.
Sorry? Why do so many people use LangChain? What's with LangChain? What am I missing? Like it's so awful.
There are plenty of other code examples which exist on GitHub from which Claude Code can re-implement the same solutions that were already established. That's the only reason why I use it.
What should we call this? Like this, I guess it's agentic engineering, but this approach to using the sort of reasoning banks and CPU-centric and nanosecond reasoning structures, and there's like, should we come up with some kind of description for what all this is? Like, because when I look at other, supposed agentic companies, I don't see anybody doing anything like this.
How
Invent
about
a word,
sane?
call it 10x.
How about sane or normal?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks. I'm the opposite.
Rob, check the chat. Call it 10x. It's a word 10x. That has otherwise no meaning, but sounds very similar to other things.
I like it. We're all 10x, 1000x.
Oh, can't call it engineer, but find another suffix behind that.
Yeah, totally. All right, it's top of the hour. I got to jump. Again, hopefully this was helpful for everyone. Thanks for solving some bugs. I'm fingers crossed that MPX issue with Claude Flow is fixed. Anyway. Oh, and by the way, you should check out some of the stuff Nick's been building lately. Nick's on a total run. Nice work on those libraries, man. You remind me of myself about a year and a half ago.
That's humbling for you to say. Thanks, Reuven. Yeah, they're downloads, man. I'm getting them. People are downloading this.
Yeah, you've been killing it. Good job on that. I really enjoy seeing the stuff you're putting out there. The whole MPX and the Rust stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, that's it for me. I'll again tomorrow we're gonna do the AI Hackerspace live. On Tuesday, for those who are part of the Agentics tribe, we're gonna have another get together. got to figure out exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to send you some messages on the WhatsApp channel. Maybe if anyone has something to show similar to what I was doing today, maybe we'll do a few presentations and we'll do some vibe coding together, and I'll help you instrument some of the stuff you're building. All right.
Thanks, Reuven.
Yeah,
Thanks everyone.
all.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.